Dodge. The most controversial topic in potentially this game's history. Whether it's giving your units full dodge in the potential system, or units with seemingly fraudulent chances to dodge, always seeming to let you down when you need them the most. And yet it is your own failure, your inability to live without dodge, that brings you back to these dodge units time and time again throughout Dokkan history. It is precisely your own failure to live without dodge that inevitably brings you back to dodge. What the fuck is this, a poem? Got me sounding like goddamn Thanos or something, what the hell? Anyways, some of the strongest units in Dokkan history have had dodge. In fact, many of the best units in this game's history have had dodge in their kits. Of course, the progenitor of this being AGL UI Goku, the most noble and supreme form in all the universe, whose radiant glow places him at the pinnacle of all beings in existence. The truly transcendent one, the one above all. His glorious 70 or 77% chance to dodge. And dodging takes 0 damage. And he really is just so good. I like to think that AGL-UI Goku and STR-UI Goku, respectively, were the originators of the dodge controversy, I guess you can call it, where their 70% chances to dodge were so strong seemingly most of the time. Yet most players, unfortunately by some sort of skill issue that is beyond me, are unable to truly take advantage of the power of dodge and simply will their way to victory. I personally do not see the problem. Every time I use AGL-UI Goku, he just dodges, and then I win. And this was even pre-EZA. And post-EZA, he's just in another level. Unless you can cancel dodge, I'd argue that UI Goku is a must-run. But that's besides the point. The point is that dodge is so strong, namely because it allows you to dodge and take no damage. And if you can't be hit and you can't take damage, you physically cannot lose. A pretty basic concept, and yet some people just, I'm not sure, fail to comprehend its power? Whether it's building full dodge in the potential system or having innate big chances to dodge in your passive, dodge is just simply the easiest way to make a character good in this game. Because numbers can always creep upwards, right? Power creep is always going to be a thing in this game. Damage simply just cannot be the end-all, be-all in this game, because new types of difficult content push the limits each time they come out. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying damage is insignificant. Far from it, damage is very important in this game, but it's simply just not as important as defensive utility in this game is. A perfect example of this is STR Super Vegeta. Super Vegeta on release was definitely the best CUR in Dokkan. He was great, he had decent defense, he had great damage, he did guaranteed crits, he had the best leader skill in the game, and yet a unit like AGL Pikkon out-aged him due to having defensive utility. Pikkon had dodge, and even the dodge aside, he also had his Ghost Usher. But the dodge is what makes him runnable after you pop his Ghost Usher. Another example of this is AGL Kale, where she's pretty decent, especially post-transformation, yet a unit like Int Yamcha, whose kit is mainly predicated around dodge, will probably, and thus so far, has aged better than Kale. Now you can argue like, oh, Kale's a lot better because Kefla came out and her team is so much more powerful now. Which, I mean, I guess, I can't really argue that. Except there will come a day where Kale and her numbers won't be like that anymore, thus leaving a chance, a possibility, and admittedly a probably highly likely one, that he can jump Kale and age better than her. We can even see them using dodge in its super powerful relevance in the meta to completely design new units around it. Take example, the anniversary Blue Gogeta who just dropped a little over a month ago. The entire strategy that you want to do with Gogeta is float him off on his first turn and then be able to transform immediately once he comes back on rotation on his 4th turn. And once he transforms, he gets 70% chance to dodge. And furthermore, he builds up crit chance from that. Did I just use the word Furthermore, in 2024, what is wrong with me? What? I need help. I can't be saved, man. I'm talking like this is a goddamn English essay. What the hell? And then on his next rotation, his third turn, I guess you could say, or would you consider it your second turn? Whatever, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you consider it. The turn he comes back, he gets his active skill, which is an uber busted ability that taunts the enemy and gives him guaranteed dodge. He cannot be hit, and you therefore cannot die. It's an insanely strong ability, one that can pretty much single-handedly win you fights. And yet people will continue to downplay God. What the hell, did I just have a stroke? And yet people will continue to downplay dodge like it's not all that good or not all that powerful when they're just plain wrong. More units who get super powerful from dodge are the blue fusions. I mean, these gods with blue hair dye, I mean, they're just dominant once they transform. And even prior to transforming, in slot 3, they have 70% chance to dodge built into their kit. And then, once you get them easy aid, have guaranteed dodge on that first hit. First turn. Which, I mean, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, is that powerful. And then, on that next rotation, you could potentially use their active skills in slot 3 and then get 70% chance to dodge. Again! So many of these super strong units in this game's history just have dodge built into their kit. Take for further example, Physical God Goku, who's just one of the better TURs in this game still. I mean, I know he's kind of fallen by the wayside, you know, Blue Zone's kind of blowing his back out, man. I was using this brother against Cellmax and Broly, and oh boy, let's just say it's not pretty. But he's got the trifecta of what makes a super good unit in this game, and that's with dodge and guard. Which, honestly, I should probably make a video about guard too, because guard is super mega busted. Who would have thunk it? Regardless though, dodge is gonna be what makes this character relevant-ish still, way past his prime. Once he can't stack fast enough to contend with the bosses, which low-key is already starting to happen. Yet he's still not going to be a horrendously bad option as a 7th man on the team because of DODGE. And then you got the Broly trio who currently dominate this game because of dodge. I mean, they're uber busted, especially with how easy it is to get their 100% chance to dodge right now. I mean, I can safely say you could probably get that up with maybe 60% uptime just from their own orb changing. Add an orb changer and you can get that very high and very easily. Broly, Chila, and Lemo, I'd argue, are very underrated. And then you've got everybody's favorite, Vegito, and then Blue Goku and Vegeta, right? They fuse into Vegeta or whatever. Half the reason why they're not absolutely horrendously terrible in base is because they get dodge in slot 1, and why they're basically unrunnable once they lose, or rather you move them out of slot 1. That and they lose their guard in turn 4, but that's besides the point. Dodge is like 50% of what makes this character pretty powerful. Even once you transform into Vegito and he becomes super powerful, he's still very nice because he's got high chance before attacking, along with his damage reduction. Because sometimes you can get unlucky with stacks, or turn 4 is just simply not long enough to be stacking. Well, turn 5, not turn 4. So this guy's defense is a little bit lower than sometimes what you'd usually expect, because you have to transform him because they suck in base. Well, I shouldn't say suck. I mean, they still got dodge, so they're okay. But for a super powerful LR, I mean, they're just not as strong. They become a dodge or die character, which, you know, just another notch in the dodge belt, man. Dodge, man. Dodge is so good, isn't it? Wow. You gotta be convinced. I say that namely because Vegito can be kinda hit hard if you don't get super lucky with his additionals, and he loses his damage reduction. But I mean, another unit we can talk about is, you know, a top 3 most powerful unit on release in this game's history, AGL Kalen Caulifla, who, God, like, a vast portion of this character's powerful abilities, that doesn't make any sense. Powerfulness? Is that a word? Let's just say strength. A good portion of this character's strength was dodge, right? They built up to 66. I just had a stroke on the word 66. 66% dodge chance. Plus their stacking, and they were a perfect counter to the hardest stage in the game at the time. I mean, whatever way you slice it, man, dodge has just always been prevalent in this game's meta. I mean, if we just quickly look at my tier list real quick right here, 8 of the top 19 units in the game, not including Vegeta and Buhan and Frieza, I guess, because I haven't ranked them yet, are dodge characters. I mean, that's like, what, 40% roughly? It just goes to show you how powerful dodge and prevalent it is in this game. But that's dodge just so uber busted.